Hey everybody. So when I was a kid, it was a constant battle to try to get anybody to actually say my full name. My name is Nathaniel, and everyone wanted to call me Nate. And when I was in gymnastics, like that's what all my teammates would call me. And when I went into high school, that's what all my friends in high school would call me. And there finally was this day that my dad sat me down and showed me where my name came from. He pulled out this book and and he's like, "Your name means gift of God," and it's the Nathan first six letters that mean gift, and the AEL at the end that means of God. So if you shorten it, then you change what it means. And and partly because it was so important to him, but partly then when he took the time to explain it to me, it changed my perspective on my name, and I started really making it that important to me to make sure people called me Nathaniel. Um, so that has been something that I have had to purpose towards, and I think that it's something in that my name has always been. I remember when I was like a kindergartner and learning to read and write, and I'm like, my name is forever long. Like, can we change my name to David? That's like way easier. And my parents didn't let me do that. They didn't want me to change my name to David. And so I'm still Nathaniel, and I still have had this theme on my name my entire life, and and I think that it's partly because of that identity has always been a really significant, important thing to me. Another thing that I had growing up, somebody gave my parents for both my brother and I these plaques, wooden plaques with our names written on them in fancy script, and under that the meaning of the name. So I've always known what my name means. Um, I just didn't know the breakdown, which parts of my name meant what. That was the new part that my dad showed me. But I had this plaque on my wall as part of my room decoration my entire life growing up. But when I became a teenager, I started putting it right in the center of my wall. And everything that I put around it was everything that I saw as what was most important to me, and like most identified who I was as a person. And so for a long time, it was like all my sports stuff, and like top of the wall from corner to corner, I had hanging on a string every medal that I'd ever won in gymnastics, and I had all my posters and all my T-shirts with autographs on them, and things like that from camps, all on my wall, all around this plaque that said Nathaniel in the middle, and all my awards, all of that stuff, and and except for my trophies, those were on a shelf. Those I couldn't put those on a wall. Anyway, I'm just being silly. But when God got a hold of my life when I was in eighth grade, um, I knew that my whole room needed a makeover, and so all that stuff came off my wall. Most of it went in the garbage, and um, literally like six huge garbage bags full of stuff got trashed out of my room, and up on the wall instead, around that plaque, was everything that had to do with Jesus. It was all my Christian posters and Bible stuff, and all of those kinds of things. Like that was what was on my wall. And both before and after that transformation, my hope, my desire for my bedroom was if anybody walked into my room, they'd take one glance at my wall and know who I was as a person. They would know what my life was about. And this message of identity, it has always been important to me. And right alongside that has been, ever since I was about 15 years old, has been family. When I was, like I said, about 15 years old, give or take a year, I'm not exactly sure when it was, but I was on my knees one night praying. I used to do that a lot when I was a teenager, and I was praying by my bed on my knees, and I don't remember what I was praying about, but all of a sudden, we talk about your heart being a home. Sometimes people make that comparison. And it was like all of a sudden God built an addition onto my heart, um, where, uh, and immediately in that addition, I had a wife and kids living there. And I mean, it was like literally just like that. I had a wife and kids living in my heart, and I was like, oh, hello. and and so then years later, about 8 years later, when I got married, it was like meeting and finally inviting a person in to be that person that had been already living in my heart that whole time. And as each one of my children was born, it was like getting to meet somebody that had lived inside of me for years. Like I already knew them, I was just waiting to meet them. And so family and identity, these two things have been deep, deep, deep in me my entire life. And they are very clearly works that God has done in me. Like I said, even those instantaneous transformations. And and uh, and so um, like all the things that God's doing, the story continues, right? So this year, I have the opportunity to go back and to visit three of the nations that my family comes from, and the two biggest ones, England, Germany, and Scotland. I'm taking three different trips um, to these three places, and I'm going to be involved in ministry. I'm part of teams on all three trips. There's stuff going on. We'll be ministering to churches in Bristol and Bath and Cornwall and England, and other ministries, not just churches. And in Germany, we'll be partnering with a single church there and teaching their congregation inner healing and hearing God's voice and some of this identity stuff. And the identity stuff, like, I just want to say, it's about you being confident, so confident in who you are that you actually live, not just exist. Like, there's a big difference between just being here on planet Earth and actually living. And it's my belief that you need to know who you are to actually start to come alive. And that's my heart and my passion, is to be able to release some of that while we're there in England and in Germany. And then in Scotland, we'll be ministering to a YWAM base, and we'll be helping raise up a next generation of leaders there in that nation. And they'll in turn go to many other nations too. And we'll be doing some prayer walking there. But the Lord's been talking to me about this, that it's important to actually set foot on the ground, on the land, in these places. And there's a piece of this too that's like that God has called me to take this message of identity and family, that this is part of His kingdom that's mine to carry and mine to give away. It's the blessing I've received to give away as a blessing, that you're blessed to be a blessing, and this is the blessing that I give. And so I'm going to these places to release that blessing, but I'm also going to these nations to get more of that blessing, to actually put my feet on the land where my family came to America from. Like, these are places that are in my blood to actually get reattached to, and to put foot to the land, and to pick up an inheritance from the Lord that is there waiting for me in those places. Then to take that and bring it and let it multiply the power of the blessing that I have to continue to give in all the future places that I go, and in future videos that I do for people like you. And so I'm doing these trips, and I'm inviting you to come and be a part of it with me in two ways. The first and most important is to be praying for me as I'm doing these trips, to be praying for me while I'm gone, for the teams that I'm a part of, that we would minister in the power of God, not in our own efforts and abilities, but that this would be something that really marks where we go, as God came and God did something. And also praying that my family back home would be filled with joy and laughter and contentment and patience and waiting for me to go, and with understanding, especially for my kids, in why I'm going and why it's important and why it's worth it for me to be gone. And just that God would be extra present in them, that His presence would make up for mine not being physically there in the house with them during that time. Be praying for those things. And also I'm inviting you, partner with me in this story, in this ongoing journey, by helping me cover the costs of these trips. Thankfully the Germany trip is almost completely covered already, but the other two trips leave me needing about $6,000 for all three trips combined, which 3 trips, $6,000, that is a deal. Um, and it's awesome. It's an awesome opportunity, but it's one that I need help with. And so I'm inviting you to be a part of that, and to receive the reward of sowing into family, of sowing into identity, of sowing into the restoration of those things and the fullness of life, and and sowing in through prayer, sowing in through finances. It does bring a reward for you as well. And so I'm inviting you. I need you. Come be a part of this, and and I just pray that God would bless you um, in every way, sowing into this and partnering with me in this. So bless you.